The day has finally grown quiet, and you're here now, settling into a softer place. Let your shoulders fall just a little. Let the breath come in low and slow, the way a warm tide rolls up a quiet shore. Nothing to fix, nothing to finish, just this slow arrival. Picture yourself on a small wooden porch at the edge of a lakeside cabin, the kind of place that feels familiar even if you've never been there. The boards under your feet are cool from the evening air. The lake is stretching out in front of you, dark, still, and wide, holding the last hints of blue from the fading sky. You take a gentle breath in and let it slip out, long and unforced. Somewhere nearby, a single cricket chirps, not loud, not demanding, just present, like a quiet companion in the dusk. Let that sound settle into you. Maybe the breath drops a little deeper now, softening the chest, loosening that feeling you've been carrying all day. The tightness from pushing through tasks, conversations, choices. The weight of trying to hold everything together. You sit on the porch bench, and it gives the slightest creak beneath you. A friendly sound, an old sound. Above you, a faint breeze moves through the pines, brushing their scent into the cooling air. The lake responds with the gentlest ripple, almost like it's breathing alongside you. Another slow inhale and an easy exhale. It's been a long day, hasn't it? Not necessarily dramatic, just full. Little responsibilities stacked on each other. The way mail piles up on the kitchen counter. Work tugging here. Family needs tugging there. Your mind trying to stay ahead of things. Even after dark, that quiet hum of concern about the things you can't quite change, no matter how much you turn them over in your head. But here on this porch, by this calm water, the world isn't asking anything of you. The surface of the lake reflects the dim sky without effort. The trees hold themselves without strain. And you right now can let yourself soften in the same way. Notice your jaw and let it loosen just a touch. Notice the way your hands rest, without needing to grip anything. Feel the back of your body supported, the front of your body gently opening with each breath, like your whole being is settling, the way sediment settles slowly to the bottom of a quiet pond. The night deepens around the cabin. A few fireflies drift along the tree line, blinking here and there, small and unhurried. You don't need to follow them. Just let their gentle glow remind you that not everything needs managing. Some things simply appear and disappear on their own. And in this soft darkness, it's okay to admit how tired you might feel, how heavy the day has been, how many things sit just outside your control. You're not here to wrestle with any of that right now. You're here to rest beside this still lake, letting the body unwind in its own quiet wisdom, letting the mind loosen its grip, little by little, as the night's calm gathers around you. If these moments help you find rest, feel free to subscribe so you can return to this quiet space anytime. And if you'd like, you can leave a simple comment. 1, if it helped. 2, if it didn't. Either way, I'm grateful you're here. Now, settle a little deeper on this porch overlooking the calm water, and let me begin the first story for your night. Story 01, The Angry Brahmin. The Buddha was walking quietly near Rajagaha, the morning light just touching the dust on the road. A Brahmin approached him, face tight, steps sharp, carrying a long day's worth of anger in his chest. He unloaded all of it at the Buddha, harsh words, accusations, old frustrations he'd been carrying. It was like he needed someone to absorb the heat he couldn't hold anymore. The Buddha stood calmly, not resisting, not pushing back. He simply let the Brahmin finish, the way a tree lets the wind pass through without argument. He reminded the man gently that anger offered is only received if someone picks it up. The Brahmin's shoulders loosened, his eyes softened. The fire in him ran out of fuel. You might know that feeling, someone else's frustration landing on you after your own long day. Or maybe you carry that heat, hoping someone will make it lighter. The lesson is simple. You don't have to pick up what hurts you. Practice. Rest one hand on your chest. Breathe in slowly. Say in your mind, not mine to hold. Exhale and let the body loosen. Story 02. The farmer who lost his cows. The Buddha was sitting with monks beside a quiet forest grove when a frantic farmer rushed in. He had lost all his cows, his whole security, his whole livelihood. He looked worn out, like someone who'd spent years carrying more than one person should. The Buddha told him they hadn't seen the animals, and the farmer ran off again, still tangled in fear. When the man was gone, the Buddha turned to the monks and reminded them that worry over possessions can trap the heart. Not rejecting things, just noticing how easily our peace gets tied to what we can't control. Maybe you've felt that knot. Money worries, job insecurity, bills waiting on the counter. It can be a heavy place to live. The lesson: peace grows when we stop chasing every fear trying to run our life. Practice. Think of one worry. On your exhale, imagine setting it on the ground beside you for 1 minute. You can pick it up later, just not now. Story 03. Kisagotami and the Mustard Seed. In the northern city of Savatthi, Kisagotami came to the Buddha with deep grief. Her child had died, and her heart was breaking. She pleaded for a medicine to bring him back. The Buddha told her to find a mustard seed from a household untouched by death. She went door to door, but every family had its own story of loss. Something in her softened. The shared human truth eased her loneliness, even while her grief remained. Maybe you've carried something like that, an old regret, a loss, a private ache you rarely talk about. It's heavy when you think you're the only one. The lesson: you're not alone in your pain. No one carries life without loss. Practice. Place your hand on your heart. Slow breath in, slow breath out. Say quietly inside, others have felt this too. End quote. Story 04. The quarrel at Kosambi. In Kosambi, a group of monks had fallen into a bitter argument. Small disagreements grew into full-sized walls. The atmosphere felt like a workplace after too many stressful days, everyone tight. No one listening. The Buddha visited them. He didn't scold. He simply reminded them how anger blinds us, how clinging to "I'm right" keeps the heart tense. Some monks paused. Some breathed. The space lightened. Eventually, their harshness melted into a quieter understanding. Maybe you know that stubborn feeling at work, at home, in a relationship where the need to win becomes more important than peace. The lesson: when you let go of being right, you make room to breathe again. Practice. Think of one tension with someone. Inhale gently. Exhale and say inside, "May I release my grip." I-10. Story 05. Mara's temptations. Under the Bodhi tree. On the night of awakening, Mara tried to shake the Buddha with fear, desire, and doubt. Storms, armies, illusions, everything meant to unsettle the mind. But the Buddha stayed rooted, steady as earth. He touched the ground, reminding himself of his own clarity. Built through years of patient practice, you may not face armies, but maybe you face your own precious deadlines. Inboxes. Self-criticism that pops up at 2 a.m. Those inner storms can feel just as loud. The lesson: when the mind wavers, come back to something grounding. Practice. Feel your feet. Press them gently into the floor or mattress. Breathe slowly and say, here. Do line. Story 06. The Woman at the Well. Suyata. Before awakening, the Buddha, still a seeker, had weakened himself with harsh practices. Sujata, a village woman, saw him near a tree, exhausted from self-punishment. She offered him simple food, seeing his humanity more than the image of a strict ascetic. That nourishment helped him realize that balance, not struggle, clears the mind. You may know that feeling, pushing too hard, trying to be perfect, hoping effort alone will solve everything. Sometimes you just need rest, or kindness, or permission to stop. The lesson: balance is wiser than self-pressure. Practice. Place a hand on your belly. Let it soften as you breathe. Allow one small kindness toward yourself tonight. Story 07. The Buddha and the Grieving Mother Pattakara. Pattakara lost her family in a series of tragedies: husband, children, relatives. Her grief shattered her, and she wandered without direction until she reached the Buddha. He didn't push her away. He spoke to her gently about life's fragility, how everything born must eventually pass. Her breath steadied, her mind returned, her heart found enough strength to stand again. Maybe you've had days where everything felt like too much, one problem after another, piling up faster than you can handle. You're not weak for feeling overwhelmed. The lesson: clarity returns when we let ourselves feel instead of fighting the pain. Practice. Place both hands on your chest. Breathe as if you're warming your own heart. Whisper inside, I'm allowed to feel. Mika. End quotes. Story 08. Sona and the Lute String. Sona practiced meditation with harsh intensity, pushing himself until he felt burnt out. He came to the Buddha frustrated, tired, ready to quit. The Buddha reminded him that a lute only plays sweetly when the string is not too tight, not too loose. Balance brings steadiness. Sona understood. His effort softened. His practice became sustainable. You might feel that too: work pressure, caring for others, trying to hold all the pieces together. Sometimes the string gets too tight. The lesson: life works better when you give yourself room to breathe. Practice. Inhale for 4. Exhale for 6. Feel the body soften with the longer out-breath. Story 09. The Buddha and the Sick Monk. During a stay with the monks, the Buddha found one monk seriously ill, lying alone, uncared for. The Buddha cleaned him, tended to him, and showed the community how care, not avoidance, strengthens the heart. The monks understood. Their fear turned into compassion. Maybe you've been there feeling unsupported, or maybe so busy you've forgotten to care for yourself. Kindness restores what exhaustion takes. The lesson: care is not a burden, it's a medicine. Practice. Hold your own hand gently for a moment. Let the warmth remind you that you deserve tenderness too. Story 10. The Buddha and the King Who Worried. King Pasenadi often came to the Buddha weighed down by decisions, responsibilities, and the pressure of protecting his kingdom. He looked worn, like someone carrying 1,000 to-do lists. The Buddha guided him to see the value of steady attention, focusing on what's wholesome, letting go of what pulls the mind into fear and excess. The king breathed more easily. His face relaxed. He walked away lighter. Maybe your days feel like that king's too many roles, too many expectations, too many unknowns. The lesson: a calm mind comes from choosing what you give your attention to. Practice. Close your eyes. Name one thing you can release tonight. Exhale slowly and let it drift away for now. Story 11. Angulimala's Turning. The Buddha was walking along a quiet forest road. The morning air still cool. Birdsong drifted through the trees. His steps were steady, unhurried. People had warned him about Angulimala, the feared bandit whose life had spiraled far beyond control. Angulimala rushed toward the Buddha, fueled by years of anger, confusion, and the desperate momentum of bad choices. Yet when he reached the Buddha, something unexpected happened. The Buddha's calm presence steadied him like running headlong into a river of stillness. The violence drained out of Angulimala. His breath eased. His mind cleared enough to see another path. Maybe you felt trapped in old habits, or pushed by pressures that make you someone you don't want to be. Sometimes a single moment of quiet can shift everything. The lesson: a calm presence can interrupt the hardest momentum. Practice. Slow inhale, slow exhale. Say quietly inside, I can pause. Minds. Story 12. The Drunk Elephant Nagiri. In Rajagaha, enemies of the Buddha released the elephant Nagiri, hoping it would harm him. The streets were tight. The crowd panicked, and the elephant charged forward in a wave of fury and fear. The Buddha stood still. His mind settled like a stone in deep water. As Nagiri neared, that calm met the elephant's chaos. The great animal slowed, softened, and finally lowered its head. Anger calms when it meets something that doesn't fight it. Maybe you've had days where everything felt like a charging elephant. Deadlines, conflict, a heavy inbox, a body stretched thin. You don't always need force. Sometimes steadiness is enough. The lesson: peace can soften what power cannot. Practice. Place one hand on your belly. Let it rise and fall like a gentle tide. Story 13. The Two Acrobats. The Buddha told the story of a master acrobat and his apprentice balancing on a pole. The master said, "You watch me, and I'll watch you." In friends. But the apprentice understood better. Each should maintain their own balance, and both would be safe. The Buddha used this to teach attention, care for yourself with clarity. And others benefit too. Care for others wisely, and you stay steady as well. Maybe you've stretched yourself thin taking care of everyone else first: family, co-workers, children, until you feel off-center. The lesson: balance yourself, and your whole world steadies. Practice. Rest your hand on your chest. Breathe gently and say, I can stand in balance. Story 14. Rahula and the Water Bowl. Rahula, the Buddha's young son, once struggled with honesty, feeling the pull between wanting approval and wanting to hide mistakes. The Buddha showed him a bowl of water, poured it out, and reminded him how quickly trust can vanish when we don't live from truth. It wasn't harsh. It was caring, guiding Rahula toward a life that wouldn't haunt him with regret. Maybe you know that feeling, wanting to be perfect, wanting to hide slip-ups, fearing someone's disappointment. The lesson: integrity keeps the mind light. Practice. Think of one small truth you've avoided. Breathe in, breathe out, and let yourself face it gently tonight. Story 15. The Fire Sermon at Gaya. On the slopes near Gaya, the Buddha spoke to monks who were tangled in restlessness and old habits. He pointed out how the senses, the mind, and reactions can feel on fire with craving or irritation. As they listened, the monks felt a cooling inside, like stepping out of a hot room into a calm night. Their grip on the world loosened. Maybe you've had those days when everything feels heated, work pressure, deadlines, exhaustion stacked on exhaustion. The lesson: noticing the heat helps it cool. Practice: feel your shoulders rise on the inhale and melt on the exhale. Let the warmth drain out. Story 16. The monk struggling with desire. A young monk came to the Buddha, embarrassed. His mind kept circling old desires, old images, old urges. He felt ashamed, like someone trying to stay focused at work while the mind keeps wandering somewhere else. The Buddha guided him to see the body clearly, its nature, its impermanence, and the monk's craving softened, not from force, but from understanding. Maybe you wrestle with urges, impulses, or habits that pull you away from who you want to be. It's human, and it can soften. The lesson: understanding quiets craving more than force ever could. Practice: place both hands on your belly. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Let the tension drift out. Story 17. Kachanagota and uncertainty. Kachanagota came to the Buddha caught in confusion, stuck between extremes of rigid belief and total doubt. His mind felt pulled in opposite directions, the way life sometimes feels when choices aren't clear. The Buddha showed him a middle way, not clinging, not rejecting, just seeing things as they are. A steadier ground than certainty or despair. Maybe you've faced decisions at work, money concerns, or life changes where everything felt uncertain and heavy. The lesson: you don't need perfect clarity to take the next calm step. Practice: sit still for one breath. Say inside, just the next step. It's a bit very different. Story 18. Anathapindika's illness, near the end of his life. The great lay supporter, Anathapindika, was in deep pain. The Buddha's close disciple Sariputta visited him and offered gentle teachings about letting go and easing clinging to the body. Anathapindika's suffering softened. His breath steadied. He felt seen, comforted, held by understanding rather than fear. Maybe you've been sick, run down, or worn out from too much responsibility. Sometimes the hardest thing is accepting help or letting yourself rest. The lesson: letting go eases the heart, even when the body hurts. Practice: place your hand on your heart. Breathe slowly and whisper inside, "May I soften here." Story 19. The river dispute between the Sakyans and Kolyans. Two clans fought bitterly over water rights to a river. Anger rose. Pride stiffened. It was like a workplace conflict magnified everyone. Sure, they were right. The Buddha stepped between them, calm as a cool breeze over hot ground. He showed them how the cost of anger was far greater than the cost of compromise. The quarrel ended. The river flowed for all. Maybe you've had standoffs with co-workers, family, or partners, moments where small conflicts felt enormous. The lesson: cooperation brings more peace than winning ever will. Practice: inhale gently, exhale slowly. Imagine offering 1 ounce of gentleness to a tense situation. Story 20. Badia's fear and freedom. Badia had once been a king, always anxious about threats, safety, and control. Even as a monk, old fears followed him like shadows. One night, sitting quietly under a tree, his mind finally released its constant guarding. He felt safe in a way power had never given him. The Buddha confirmed his insight. Real security comes from within, not from defenses. Maybe you've lived with that inner vigilance, worrying about bills, about work, about the future, about things slipping out of your hands. The lesson: inner ease grows when you stop standing guard against life. Practice. Let your shoulders drop. Breathe out softly. Imagine setting down an invisible shield you've been carrying all day. Story 21. The Buddha and the Young Monk with Doubt. In the quiet of Jetavana, a young monk sat alone under a grove of tall trees. Evening light flickered through the leaves. His heart was heavy with doubt about the path, his worth, and whether he was failing. The Buddha approached slowly, as if he'd heard that silent struggle. He reminded the monk that doubt is a natural visitor, not a permanent condition. Just as clouds drift across the sky, the mind's storms also pass. The monk's breath eased. His shoulders relaxed. He didn't need to have everything figured out tonight. Maybe you felt that weight, uncertainty about work, relationships, money, or the future. Doubt doesn't mean you're lost. The lesson: doubt is a cloud, not who you are. Practice. Breathe in gently. As you exhale, imagine one small cloud drifting away. Story 22. The Buddha and the Stingy Man. Makarya. In Savatthi, a wealthy man clung tightly to everything he owned: money, grain, even small necessities. His fear of losing anything made his world small and tense. He came to the Buddha, feeling strangely unhappy despite his full storage rooms. The Buddha explained how generosity opens the heart and eases fear. The man tried giving a little, then more, and he noticed how each act lightened him, like loosening a belt that had been too tight. Maybe you've held on too tightly, too worrying about finances, security, or being taken advantage of. Sometimes the tightness itself is the pain. The lesson: giving a little can free a lot. Practice. Think of one small kindness you can offer tomorrow. Let your chest soften as you imagine it. Story 23. The Buddha and the Monk with Harsh Speech. One monk struggled with sharp words, quick to snap, quick to judge. It left him feeling ashamed afterward, like a worker who regrets what slipped out in a stressful meeting. The Buddha spoke to him about using speech the way a gardener uses water, gently, supporting growth rather than scorching it. The monk listened, breathing slower, realizing his words could soothe rather than sting. Maybe you've said things you wished you could take back. Everyone has. The lesson: gentle words ease both the speaker and the listener. Practice. Inhale slowly. Exhale and whisper inside, let my next words be soft. Inset. Story 24. The Buddha and Super Buddha. The leper. Super Buddha. A poor man suffering from illness sat at the edge of a gathering, hesitant and ashamed. People avoided him, but he longed to hear the Buddha. The Buddha noticed him and spoke directly to him with warmth, teaching him about patience, courage, and goodness already within. For the first time in years, Super Buddha felt seen. Maybe you felt pushed aside, unnoticed at work, or overlooked in your own home. Being seen can heal more than medicine. The lesson: everyone deserves to be met with dignity. Practice. Place one hand over your heart. Breathe slowly and say, I matter too. I. Story 25. The Buddha quiets. A debate. Two monks were arguing fiercely over philosophical details. Their voices rose like two overworked co-workers stuck late in the office, each needing to be right. The Buddha approached with calm steps. He reminded them that winning an argument doesn't bring peace, understanding does. Their anger thinned. Their faces softened. Silence returned to the monastery. Maybe you know that tension, long arguments at home or disagreements at work that leave everyone tired. The lesson: understanding is more nourishing than victory. Practice. Breathe in, breathe out. Imagine offering one moment of listening instead of reacting. Story 26. The Buddha and the Jealous Monk, Devadatta episode. Early part. Before Devadatta turned fully against the Buddha, jealousy simmered in him. He wanted recognition, authority, admiration, things he felt slipping away. He approached the Buddha with proposals meant to elevate his own status. The Buddha responded calmly, without anger, without feeding the jealousy. He simply didn't engage the rivalry. Devadatta left frustrated, but the Buddha remained steady, unmoved by comparison or competition. Maybe you've felt that sting when someone else succeeds, or when you fear being overlooked. The lesson: jealousy fades when you stop measuring yourself against others. Practice. Place a hand on your belly. Inhale gently and say, I am enough. End quote. Story 27. The Buddha and the sick novice who felt like a burden. A young novice fell ill and felt useless. Embarrassed that others had to care for him, he whispered that he was just trouble. In woe, the Buddha sat beside him and reminded him that care is part of the path, receiving it with humility and offering it with kindness. The novice's shame loosened. He breathed more quietly, finally able to rest. Maybe you've felt like that, guilty for needing help, or afraid of being too much. Is safe. The lesson: needing care doesn't make you a burden, it makes you human. Practice. Put one hand on your chest. Exhale slowly and allow yourself one moment of ease. Story 28. The Buddha and the monk, afraid of the forest. A monk avoided meditating in the forest because the sounds at night frightened him. Every rustle felt like danger. Every shadow, a threat. The Buddha guided him to see fear clearly, not as an enemy, but as a sensation rising and falling like wind. The monk tried again, and the forest slowly felt less like a threat and more like a teacher. Maybe nighttime brings your own fears, future worries, health concerns, unexpected bills. The lesson: fear loses strength when you face it gently. Practice. Take one slow breath. Say inside, this feeling will pass. Stunned. Story 29. Nanda and the Pull of Old Desires. Nanda, the Buddha's half-brother, struggled with attachment to beauty and old loves. His heart kept wandering back to what he missed. The Buddha didn't shame him. He helped Nanda see the nature of desire, how it rises, promises fulfillment, then fades. Nanda's longing loosened, and clarity returned. Maybe you've longed for something, an old relationship, a past success, the life you thought you'd have by now. The lesson: desire grows quieter when you see its pattern clearly. Practice. Breathe gently. On the exhale, imagine loosening one small strand of longing. Story 30. The Buddha and the restless monk, seeking constant fixes. A monk came to the Buddha frustrated that meditation wasn't giving him quick results. He jumped from method to method, like someone trying every productivity hack and still feeling overwhelmed. The Buddha reminded him that steady practice works like slow rain nourishing the earth, patient, consistent, undramatic. The monk's restlessness softened. His breathing slowed. He realized he didn't need instant transformation, only steady effort. Maybe you've searched for quick fixes for stress, work pressure, or lingering worries. The lesson: small, steady steps change the mind more than chasing breakthroughs. Practice. Sit for 1 minute. Feel one natural breath. Let that be enough for tonight. Story 31. Kisar Gotami and the Mustard Seeds. The night was quiet outside Rajagaha, and the Buddha sat beneath a simple lamp's glow. A young mother, Kisar Gotami, approached with trembling hands, carrying the weight of her child's death. Her grief was sharp, frantic, the way modern fear spikes when life slips out of our control. She begged the Buddha to bring her child back. Her voice cracked the way your chest tightens when life hands you something you never asked for. The Buddha listened with warm, steady presence. Then he gently told her to find mustard seeds from a household that had never lost anyone. She walked the entire city. Every door opened with compassion, but every home had known loss. By dusk, her breath slowed. Her grief softened into understanding. Suffering touches every life. You might notice your own pain sometimes feels personal, like the universe singled you out. But maybe you've also walked among others carrying their own invisible burdens. Life lesson: you're not alone. Loss is part of the shared human world. Practice. Sit with one hand on your heart. Whisper inwardly, "May I be gentle with my pain. May others be gentle with theirs." Ones. Story 32. Sona and the Lute String. One afternoon in Jetta's Grove, the Buddha met Sona, a monk exhausted from pushing himself too hard. He'd been walking long distances, meditating without rest, driven by the same perfectionism that keeps you glued to your inbox long after you're tired. His feet bled. His mind burned. He felt like a failure. The Buddha asked him, "Sona, when the lute strings are too tight, does it play well?" Sona shook his head. "And when too loose?" Another shake. "But with balance, the sound is clear. There is really when my not with free." Something in Sona softened. The pressure inside him uncoiled. If you've been tightening your own strings, working late, grinding, expecting too much of yourself, you might feel that same strain. Life lesson: not too tight, not too loose. Balance creates clarity. Practice. Take 3 slow breaths. On each exhale, imagine easing one tight string inside you. Story 33. The Buddha calms a quarreling community. The Buddha once visited Kosambi during a bitter conflict between monks. Small disagreements had hardened into stubbornness, much like family arguments that start small and grow sharp. He didn't scold them. He simply sat quietly outside, meditating. His stillness was a mirror. Their agitation dissolved in the face of his calm. Eventually, the monks approached him. Embarrassed, with gentle words, he reminded them that anger burns the one who carries it. Maybe you felt that heat over emails, chores, or someone's tone that didn't sit right. Life lesson: peace spreads from the one who chooses calmness first. Practice. Tonight, breathe slowly and picture your irritation melting like ice in warm water. Story 34. The Farmer and His 50 Problems. A farmer once approached the Buddha, listing every frustration in his life: crops, illness, family stress, money worries. He sounded like someone drowning in modern responsibilities. The Buddha listened patiently. Then he said, simply, that everyone has 50 problems. and the only real freedom comes from changing one's relationship with them. The farmer exhaled. Something unclenched inside him. Maybe you've wished for a life without problems too. Most people do. Life lesson. You can't erase all problems, but you can loosen how tightly you hold them. Practice. Write one line. I don't need all problems solved to breathe easier. Oh. Story 35. Nakulapita's anxiety about sickness. When Nakulapita grew ill, fear wrapped around his mind. He told the Buddha he felt fragile, overwhelmed the way you might feel when health scares or uncertainty shake your routines. The Buddha gently taught him that while the body changes, the mind can learn steadiness. Nakulapita felt his breath grow calmer, his worry soften. Maybe your mind sometimes spirals into what-ifs. It's human. Life lesson. Even in an unsteady body, you can practice a steady mind. Practice. Place both hands on your belly. Follow the rise and fall for 10 slow breaths. Story 36. The Buddha and the Angry Brahmin. An angry Brahmin once confronted the Buddha, shouting insults. The Buddha listened with the same stillness as a mountain receiving the wind. When the Brahmin paused, the Buddha asked whether gifts left unaccepted return to the giver. The man nodded. The Buddha's quiet gaze made the analogy clear. The Brahmin's rage dissolved. Maybe you've had someone project stress or impatience onto you. Their gift doesn't have to be accepted. Life lesson. You can let anger stop with you. Practice. When you feel provoked, pause for one breath before responding. Story 37. The Buddha speaks to a homesick monk. A young monk once missed his family terribly. His longing felt heavy, distracting, like the ache you feel when responsibilities pull you away from the people you love. The Buddha reminded him that love doesn't weaken practice. It deepens compassion for all beings who love and lose. The monk felt lighter, no longer fighting his own tenderness. Maybe you've judged yourself for caring too much or feeling too deeply. Life lesson. Your tenderness is not a flaw. It's a doorway to understanding others. Practice. Think of someone you love. Send them a silent wish. May you be well. Where? Story 38. The monk, gripped by doubt. In the bamboo grove, a monk named Maha Moggallana struggled with doubt. His mind raced with questions. Am I doing enough? Am I progressing? It felt like the modern anxiety of second-guessing every step. The Buddha reminded him that doubt is just another passing state, not the truth of who we are. Hearing this, Moggallana breathed easier, like a storm finally clearing. Maybe your mind also churns with not enough. You're not alone. Life lesson. Doubt is a visitor, not your identity. Practice. Label your next worried thought simply as thinking, and let it pass. Story 39. The Buddha and the man who feared death. A layman once confessed his terror of death. His fear tightened his chest, the way anxiety does late at night when the mind wanders to things we can't control. The Buddha spoke gently about impermanence, not to frighten him, but to free him from clinging to what must change. The man felt relief, like stepping out of a dark room into soft daylight. Maybe you felt that same tension around uncertainty. Life lesson. Facing change gently brings more peace than resisting it. Practice. Whisper inwardly, this moment is enough. ATE2. Feel how it anchors you. Story 40. The Buddha guides. Rahula on truthfulness. One evening, the Buddha spoke to Rahula, his son, who had hidden a small mistake out of fear. The Buddha used a simple bowl of water to teach how even tiny untruths cloud the mind. Rahula understood. His shoulders relaxed. He felt safe to be honest. Maybe you've carried the stress of hiding feelings or pretending you're fine. 8. Life lesson. Honesty with yourself is the beginning of ease. Practice. Say softly in your mind, I allow myself to be real. Is well, then take one slow breath. Story 41. The Buddha and the sick monk in the forest. The Buddha was walking through a quiet forest near Vesali when he found a monk lying alone on the ground. The monk was weak, covered in dust, trembling from illness. He had been left behind because no one knew how to care for him. The Buddha knelt beside him with the tenderness of a parent comforting a tired child. He brought water, cleaned the monk's body, and tended to him with slow, patient movements. The monk's eyes softened, surprised that someone so revered would touch him with such care. Later, the Buddha gathered the community and taught that caring for the sick was as important as any meditation. His presence reminded everyone that compassion is not a thought, it is an action. And in that forest, the monk's breath steadied, his sense of worth returning. Maybe you've felt abandoned in your own struggles, unsure who would stand beside you. Or perhaps you've pushed through pain alone because you didn't want to bother anyone. The Buddha's message gently echoes through time. No one heals alone. You might notice, right now, a softening around your chest as you hear this, because part of you knows you deserve support too, and offering care to yourself is a noble beginning. Life lesson. Kindness is the path. Caring for others includes caring for yourself. Practice. Wrap your arms lightly around your body. Whisper inside, I deserve gentle care. Unquote. Story 42. Bhadia the monk and the search for peace. In the early morning, the Buddha heard someone chanting, happiness, again and again. It was Bhadia, a former prince who once lived in constant fear of threats and betrayal. Now he wandered peacefully under the trees, repeating the same joyful phrase. Some monks worried he was becoming careless, so they told the Buddha. The Buddha called Bhadia gently, inviting him to sit. The monk explained how, in palace life, guards watched him day and night. Even in luxury, his heart was tight, restless, much like anxiety in modern life that persists despite comfort. But in the simple quiet of monastic life, he finally felt safe. The Buddha nodded, understanding deeply how fear shapes the mind. He told the monks that real peace doesn't come from walls or guards, but from inner freedom. Bhadia bowed, tears warming the corners of his eyes. His breath settled into something deep and unforced. Maybe you've had moments when you should have felt secure, yet the worry still hummed in your mind. Peace is rarely about circumstances, it's about how softly your mind can rest. Right now, you might feel a tiny sigh wanting to escape your body. Life lesson. Safety grows inside when the mind stops fighting itself. Practice. Place one hand on your chest and inhale slowly. Say inwardly, may I feel safe in this moment. Is really? Story 43. The Buddha teaches Anuruddha about cooperation. One evening the Buddha visited the group of 3 monks, Anuruddha, Nandiya, and Kimbala. They lived together without conflict. Their small hut, calm, like a gentle lake at dusk. The Buddha asked how they managed such harmony. Anuruddha explained they acted as though sharing one mind. Each anticipated the needs of the others. There was no resentment, no claiming, no hidden irritation. The Buddha smiled, pleased, teaching that harmony arises from goodwill, not rules. Their cooperation was effortless because each carried kindness in their actions. This teaching feels familiar today when teamwork becomes strained. We often forget that small acts, cleaning a shared space, speaking gently, stepping back, create quiet unity. The Buddha's presence encouraged the monks to maintain this simplicity. Their hearts had become naturally light, unburdened by ego. Maybe you've wished for smoother relationships with co-workers, family, or partners. Harmony isn't perfect agreement. It's the softness of generosity. Even a tiny shift in attitude can change the whole atmosphere around you. Life lesson: when you hold goodwill, others feel it. It shapes the whole room. Practice: think of someone you interact with daily. Offer a silent wish: may we meet with ease. Infants. Story 44. Patachara and her shattered world. Patachara came to the Buddha in complete grief. Her husband, children, and family all lost. Her mind felt torn, scattered like leaves in a storm. People avoided her, thinking she was beyond help. But the Buddha met her with deep compassion, inviting her to sit close. He spoke of impermanence, not to wound her, but to show she wasn't cursed. Suffering touches every life, and grief, though crushing, can be held with gentleness. As she listened, her breathing slowly returned, one trembling inhale at a time. Her tears didn't stop, but they softened. She felt seen for the first time since her losses. The Buddha's quiet presence helped her gather the pieces of her mind. Her world was still broken, but no longer hopeless. Maybe you felt that same overwhelming cascade of events, one problem after another, until you could barely stand. When the world breaks open, even one steady voice can help you find the ground again. Let yourself lean into that steadiness now. Just a little. Life lesson: grief is part of love. Healing begins when you stop grieving alone. Practice: hold your heart gently and breathe. One breath, one moment. I am still here. Will downed. Story 45. The Buddha calms a monk afraid of the forest. A young monk avoided meditating in the forest because he feared spirits and wild animals. His imagination created shadows, much like our modern minds create fear out of thoughts. The Buddha asked him to sit quietly and notice how fear rises and falls. He taught him a protective meditation rooted in loving kindness. With practice, the monk's breath deepened. The forest no longer felt hostile. Over time, the trees became friends. The night a teacher rather than a threat. The monk discovered that fear weakens when met with compassion. The Buddha simply guided him back to trust in his own mind. Maybe your fears aren't forests but deadlines, bills, uncertainties. The mind paints dangers even when they aren't real. But every fear, no matter how sharp, changes when you breathe into it carefully. Right now, notice how even thinking about calming down begins to settle you. Life lesson: fear shrinks when you meet it with kindness instead of resistance. Practice: inhale gently, whispering, may I be safe. Exhale, may I be calm. While I want a friend. Story 46. The Buddha and the jealous husband. A jealous husband once came to the Buddha after accusing his wife of being unfaithful. His anger was tight, hot, and humiliating. The Buddha didn't judge his jealousy. He simply asked him to look at the suffering inside it. The man realized he feared losing love more than he felt anger. The Buddha spoke of how clinging turns affection into possession. Hearing this, the husband's shoulders sank. the tension in his jaw releasing. He began to understand that trust grows from calmness, not suspicion. Jealousy had clouded his ability to see clearly. Maybe you felt similar insecurity, wanting control because vulnerability feels too raw. But the Buddha reminds us that love cannot be forced. It must be offered freely. Softening doesn't mean weakness, it means wisdom. Life lesson: letting go of control opens space for real connection. Practice: place a hand over your heart. Inhale slowly and say inwardly, I release the need to grasp. In place of menus. Story 47. The Buddha teaches a monk, lost in laziness. A monk once confessed that he struggled with laziness. Each time he tried to meditate, sleepiness washed over him like a heavy fog. He felt ashamed, imagining he was the only one failing in this way. The Buddha comforted him with a gentle presence, explaining that sluggishness is just another hindrance, not a flaw. He taught practical steps: change posture, reflect on inspiring teachings, bring attention back to the body. The monk tried these methods and gradually felt energy returning. His shame loosened. He realized that discipline doesn't mean force, it means caring enough to adjust. Maybe your own motivation dips sometimes, and you judge yourself harshly for it. But the Buddha's tone was free of criticism, inviting the monk to treat his mind with patience. And patience often wakes up energy on its own. Life lesson: gentle adjustments create steady progress. Practice: sit up a little straighter. Take one refreshing breath and whisper, I can begin again. You will stand. Story 48. The Buddha and the monk, overwhelmed by lust. A monk once struggled deeply with desire. It filled his thoughts, pulling him away from his vows, leaving him torn and frustrated. Ashamed, he approached the Buddha, expecting judgment, but the Buddha's voice was warm, acknowledging that desire is a powerful force. He offered practical teachings on impermanence and the changing nature of sensations. The monk slowly saw that craving was a wave, strong but passing. His self-blame softened, clarity returned. The Buddha's guidance helped him see desire without being swallowed by it. Maybe you felt pulled by longings, wanting something intensely, whether comfort, attention, or escape. Desire is human, but you don't have to drown in it. Awareness creates space, and space brings peace. Life lesson: seeing desire clearly weakens its grip. Practice: notice one craving tonight. Label it gently as wanting. Then let your breath expand around it. Story 49. The Buddha helps a monk tormented by anger. One monk was known for his quick temper. He snapped at others, regretted it, and then repeated the cycle. When he finally approached the Buddha, his chest was tight, breath short. The Buddha taught him reflections on loving kindness, encouraging him to send goodwill, even to those who irritated him. At first, the monk resisted, but slowly something softened. He began practicing before meals, before chores, before speaking. Over weeks, his face changed, less strained, more open. The Buddha reminded him that anger is like holding a burning coal. Letting go burns no one. Maybe your own anger comes from exhaustion or feeling unseen, but kindness, even a small amount, cools the heat inside your ribs. Life lesson: you don't have to carry the fire inside you. Practice: breathe in softly. On the exhale, imagine dropping a hot coal from your hand. Story 50. Queen Kama and the teaching on beauty. Queen Kama was known for her beauty and confidence. But the thought of aging frightened her deeply. She avoided visiting the Buddha because she feared hearing something uncomfortable. When she finally met him, he spoke with gentleness about impermanence. He helped her see a vision of beauty aging, changing, fading, instead of fear. She felt understanding. Something in her heart relaxed. Her attachment to appearance softened, replaced by steadier confidence. She bowed, feeling lighter than she had in years. Maybe you've worried about aging, change, or losing what once defined you. But the Buddha's teaching reminds us that inner ease is far more lasting than outer form. Your worth has never been tied to appearance. It rises from your heart. Life lesson. What is truly beautiful grows deeper with time. Practice. Look inward for one breath and whisper, "May I value what lasts." Wenbie. Story 51, Kisagotami and the Mustard Seed. Kisagotami came to the Buddha carrying her lifeless child in her arms. Her face was pale, frantic, refusing to accept what had happened. She begged the Buddha for medicine to bring him back. The Buddha looked at her with deep compassion and told her to find a mustard seed from a household that had never faced death. She rushed through the town, knocking on every door, desperate for a single yes, but every home had its own story of loss: a parent, a sibling, a partner, a child. By dusk, her steps slowed, her breath softer, grief settling into something real. She returned to the Buddha, no longer pleading, but understanding. He welcomed her with quiet eyes, helping her see that she wasn't alone in her sorrow. Her heart didn't heal overnight, but it no longer felt cursed. Maybe you know those moments when grief makes the world feel unfair and isolating. Yet when we pause, we often find others carrying their own invisible weights. And in that recognition, something eases just a little. Life lesson. Shared humanity softens even the deepest pain. Practice. Place a hand over your heart. With one slow breath, whisper inwardly, "I'm not alone." I was a state. Story 52. The Buddha and the farmer angry about his problems. A tired farmer once approached the Buddha, frustrated with endless troubles. His crops failed some years. His family argued. His work never ended. He wanted solutions for everything, to fix life completely. The Buddha listened patiently, letting the man empty his complaints. Then he explained that everyone has around 80 problems, and when one ends, another appears. The farmer frowned, expecting a miracle answer. The Buddha told him the only problem we can truly resolve is the belief that we shouldn't have problems. Something inside the farmer softened. He finally exhaled. His life wouldn't magically become smooth, but his resistance could. Maybe you've wished for the perfect week. No stress, no setbacks, no missteps. But peace often comes from accepting life's rhythm rather than fighting it. You might feel your shoulders lowering a little as you hear this. Life lesson. Peace grows not from fixing everything, but from loosening your grip. Practice. On your next breath out, silently say, "I release the struggle against what is." Story 53. The Buddha and Supper Buddha, the leper. Supper Buddha, a man shunned because of his illness, sat far from the crowd listening to the Buddha teach. He felt unworthy, convinced he didn't belong among others. But the Buddha noticed him sitting alone and addressed him directly with compassion. Supper Buddha's heart lifted. No one had looked at him with kindness in years. The Buddha spoke on generosity of spirit and the inner worth of every person. Supper Buddha listened with full attention. tears gathering at the edges of his eyes. His illness didn't vanish, but his dignity returned. He felt seen not as a disease, but as a human being. Maybe you felt pushed aside, underestimated, or invisible, and maybe part of you has learned to shrink because of it. But worth doesn't disappear just because others don't notice it. Your value is quiet, steady, and constant. Life lesson: every heart deserves dignity, including your own. Practice: sit tall for one breath and think, my worth is not up for debate. As clues see. Story 54. The Buddha teaches Rahula about honesty. One day, young Rahula told a small lie while sweeping the monastery. He feared punishment, so he hid the truth. The Buddha visited him that evening, holding a simple bowl of water. He poured out the water and asked Rahula how useful an empty bowl was. Rahula realized that a mind without honesty becomes just as empty. The Buddha's tone was gentle, not scolding, just guiding. Rahula felt his cheeks warm with sincerity, wanting to grow wiser. Honesty, the Buddha said, makes the mind clear like steady light. Rahula promised to be truthful even in small things. He felt lighter, more grounded. Maybe you've told tiny untruths to avoid conflict or embarrassment. We all slip sometimes, but each return to honesty steadies the heart. Life lesson: truthfulness brings clarity and quiet confidence. Practice: place one hand on your chest and whisper inwardly, may I speak and act with honesty. It's Nuvan described. Story 55. The Buddha and the quarrelsome monks of Kosambi. In Kosambi, the monks were tangled in arguments over minor rules. Their voices grew sharp, their tempers tight, and the community split in two. When the Buddha tried to reconcile them, they refused to listen, each side clinging to being right. The Buddha quietly left the monastery, choosing peace over conflict. The monks soon realized their behavior had driven away their own teacher. Regret softened their rigid pride. They gathered together, humbled, and walked to find the Buddha. When they apologized, the Buddha welcomed them without anger. Harmony finally returned. Maybe you felt stuck in a disagreement needing to win, even when it exhausted you. Sometimes stepping back opens the door to peace, far more than pushing forward. You might feel a small release in your own chest at that thought. Life lesson: when pride relaxes, connection returns. Practice: think of a conflict and breathe softly, saying inwardly, may I let go of being right. End quote. Story 56. The Buddha helps a monk afraid of death. A monk once became overwhelmed by fear of dying. Every small ache in his body sent his mind racing. He approached the Buddha trembling, ashamed of his fear. The Buddha guided him to reflect on the truth that all conditioned things fade, not to frighten him, but to help him see that fear loses power when met directly. The monk practiced this reflection gently, letting the breath steady his nerves. Over time, he found a quiet courage rising in him. He realized that avoiding the thought of death only made fear stronger. Facing it softened something locked inside him. Maybe you've felt fear about aging, illness, or uncertainty. You're not alone in that. Courage often begins as a small, steady breath. Life lesson: facing fear with honesty brings unexpected peace. Practice: inhale slowly and say inwardly, here. Down moved K. Exhale. Now. Relevant. Let the mind rest in this moment. Story 57. The Buddha teaches the miserly householder. Makarya, A wealthy householder was known for his tight fist, never sharing, never giving. He feared losing what he had worked for. The Buddha visited him and gently asked why he clung so tightly. The man admitted he felt if he gave, he might end up with nothing. The Buddha spoke about how generosity opens the heart, while hoarding closes it. He told him giving doesn't diminish wealth, it expands inner ease. The man tried giving a small gift that week. To his surprise, he felt lighter, almost relieved. His fear loosened, replaced with a warm sense of connection. Maybe you've clung to money, time, or energy out of worry there won't be enough. But even tiny acts of giving soften the grip of fear. Life lesson: generosity creates spaciousness inside the heart. Practice: give one small kindness today, a smile, a message, a minute of your attention. Story 58. The Buddha and the grieving mother of a wayward son. A mother came to the Buddha, heartbroken because her son lived recklessly. She feared he would destroy his life, and she blamed herself constantly. The Buddha listened, letting her tears fall freely. He explained that even loving parents cannot control the choices of grown children, but they can offer steady goodwill and patient guidance. The mother's breath deepened, her guilt loosened. She realized love doesn't mean carrying every burden. Her heart felt a shade lighter, able to support her son without drowning in worry. Maybe you've felt that ache of wanting to fix someone's life, but wisdom sometimes means supporting without gripping. Life lesson: love guides best when it isn't tangled in control. Practice: think of someone you care about. Offer one gentle breath and the wish, may you find your way. And Aventus. Story 59. The Buddha and the monk lost in restlessness. A monk struggled with constant mental agitation. Thoughts jumped like sparks, especially when he tried to meditate. He felt discouraged, imagining he was failing. The Buddha sat with him and spoke about restlessness as a passing state. He taught grounding the attention in the body and breath. The monk practiced feeling his feet on the earth, his hands resting gently. Slowly the mind began to quiet. Like dust settling in a still room, he realized restlessness wasn't personal, it was just weather moving through. His confidence returned. Maybe your mind races at night, jumping from task to regret to worry. You're not broken. Your mind just needs steady ground. Life lesson: attention in the body draws the mind back to calm. Practice: feel your feet or hands and breathe slowly for 3 cycles. Story 60. The Buddha and King Pasenadi on contentment. King Pasenadi came to the Buddha exhausted from ruling a vast kingdom. Despite wealth and power, he felt unsatisfied and burdened. The Buddha asked him whether even a mountain of gold could fulfill endless desire. Pasenadi laughed softly, realizing the truth: the heart always wants more. The Buddha spoke of contentment as a rare treasure. The king felt something ease in his chest, a gentle letting go. His responsibilities didn't vanish, but his hunger for more softened. He began to appreciate simple moments: meals, conversations, quiet evenings. Maybe you felt that pull toward more success, more approval, more security. But contentment often arrives when we stop chasing and start noticing. Life lesson: enoughness begins in the heart, not in circumstances. Practice: look around you and name one thing, just one, that is enough right now. Story 61. The monk who wrapped the wind. A young monk once tried to bottle the wind in a clay jar. He believed that if he could trap the breeze that touched the mountain top, he could keep its coolness for the burning days ahead. He sealed the jar tightly and placed it beside his bed. But when he opened it the next morning, nothing stirred. No whisper of wind, only the stillness of the jar itself. He went to his master in disappointment. The master smiled. "You cannot keep what is always moving," he said. "The wind gives comfort only because it is free." It's both. The monk realized how often he tried to hold on to things, moments, people, feelings, as if they could be stored for later. He walked back outside and felt the wind brush past his cheek. For the first time, he bowed to something that could never be kept. And in this surrender, he felt more peace than he ever stored in jars. Story 62. Pebbles in the lantern. A traveler carried a lantern filled not with light, but pebbles. He shook it proudly, believing it gave him protection. When night came and the path dimmed, he wondered why the road stayed dark. A monk passing by asked what he carried. "Stones," the traveler said. "They make me feel safe." The monk nodded gently. "Safety that blinds you is not safety at all." Well, he emptied the lantern and lit a small flame inside. Warmth spilled across the ground. The traveler blinked in surprise. "How long have I walked in darkness?" he whispered. "As long as you believed weight was light," the monk replied. The traveler walked on, finally seeing the road, not safer, but visible. Story 63. The bird who refused to land. A small bird circled the monastery roof, too afraid to perch. She believed that if she landed, someone might trap her. The monks watched her tirelessly beating wings. One elder placed a bowl of water on the ground and simply waited. At dusk, the bird trembled with exhaustion. She drifted downward, unable to fly any longer. The elder gently guided her to the water. "You see," he whispered, "rest is not a prison. We have not." The bird drank, shivered, then fell asleep beneath a warm lantern. By morning, she flew stronger than ever. Freedom, she learned, includes landing. Story 64. Footprints across the lake. Legend said an enlightened being once walked across the lake, leaving shimmering footprints on the surface. Pilgrims came for centuries, hoping to see them. One day, a child asked an old monk, "Where are the footprints now?" The monk tapped the water gently with his finger. Ripples spread outward in perfect circles. "Every step ever taken disappears," he said, "but the ripple remains." Days, the child watched the soft rings widen. "So we leave traces even when nothing is left," the monk nodded. "Kindness leaves the only lasting footprint, and even that belongs to the water." Inlight. Story 65. The mirror behind the waterfall. Behind a great waterfall stood a hidden cave, where a mirror was carved from pure obsidian. Many travelers entered, hoping to see their true faces. But the spray of the water blurred the surface the moment they stepped inside. Frustrated, one traveler asked a hermit, "How does anyone see their real self here?" The hermit smiled. "By not trying." Well, when the traveler relaxed, the water settled just enough for a reflection to form. It lasted only a moment, but it was clear. Some truths appear only when the mind stops reaching. Story 66. The candle that outlived the night. A monk lit a candle during a storm, not expecting it to last. Wind rattled the shutters. Rain shook the roof. Yet the candle burned steadily, its flame trembling but never breaking. A novice asked, "How does it survive the storm?" The monk replied, It does not resist the wind. It dances with it. In Bedtime, the novice watched closely. The flame swayed, bowed, leaned, but always returned to center. By dawn, the novice understood. Strength was not stillness, but flexibility. Story 67, The River's Apology. A river once carved too deeply into a village's farmland, destroying crops and homes. Villagers cursed its reckless path. A wandering monk approached and dipped his hand in the water. "Why do you apologize?" a villager mocked. The monk smiled. "I do not apologize. The river does." This was Dayan. He lifted his hand. The water slipped through his fingers without resistance. "It does not cling to what it harmed," he said. "It keeps moving, reshaping, renewing." In Founder's unrest, a rendered is render. The villagers watched the river soften its edge over time, creating new fertile soil. Forgiveness, they learned, was a current that never stops moving. Story 68, The Bamboo Keeper. A gardener cared for bamboo that refused to grow. Every day, he watered it, tended the soil, removed weeds, yet the stalks remained low and thin. In frustration, he asked a monk for advice. The monk nodded. "Bamboo spends years growing roots before it grows upward." Unquote. Encouraged, the gardener continued. One spring morning, the bamboo shot up so quickly he could almost watch it rise. Some growth, he realized, is invisible until suddenly it is not. Story 69, Tea for the Storm. When thunder rolled across the valley, a young monk panicked. He believed storms were omens and hid beneath his blanket. An elder brewed tea instead. "Why are you calm?" the monk asked. "Because storms are visitors." "As additions board," the elder replied. "They stay only until their tea cools." "Ease really takes dine." They sipped in silence as lightning flashed. By the time the tea finished, the storm had drifted into the mountains. The young monk smiled. Fear had stayed shorter than the warmth of the cup. Story 70, The Thread That Mended the Sky. A weaver believed that every dawn, the sky tore slightly at the edges. So she sat on the hilltop each morning with a spool of golden thread, mending imaginary rifts. A curious monk asked why she bothered, if the tears were not real. She answered, "When I stitch the sky, I stitch my heart. I can never point." The monk sat beside her and watched the rising sun fill the horizon with gentle gold. Some repairs, he realized, are made for the soul, not the sky. Story 71, The Stone That Refused to Sink. A boy dropped a smooth stone into a pond and waited for it to vanish. But the stone floated, balanced perfectly on a lily leaf beneath the surface. Startled, he ran to tell a monk. The monk chuckled softly. "You see only luck," he said. "But the lily has carried heavier things. It's no five-hand." The boy knelt and watched the leaf tremble, yet hold steady. "Why does it help the stone?" he asked. "Because helping is its nature." "It's not blue." The stone slowly slid off and sank, sending small ripples outward. The boy whispered. "So even brief support matters," the monk replied. "Sometimes a moment of kindness keeps someone afloat long enough to find their own depth." Oh. Story 72, The Silent Bell. In a mountaintop temple hung a bell that no one had heard for decades. Its rope had rotted, its metal was cold. A traveler asked the abbot, "Why keep a bell that cannot ring?" The abbot placed a hand on the bell's surface. "Strike it with your heart," he said. The traveler closed his eyes, breathed deeply, and touched the metal with a single finger. A faint hum vibrated through the air, soft but unmistakable. The traveler gasped. The abbot smiled gently. Some things speak, he said, only when touched with silence. End quote. Story 73. The mountain that bowed to the cloud. A weary climber reached a ridge and saw a cloud resting on the peak. He bowed to the mountain, thankful to have made it. But the cloud drifted lower, as if bowing back. He laughed, believing it a trick of wind. An old monk approached. The mountain bows to nothing, he said, but the cloud bows to everything. End quote. The climber watched the cloud dissolve. Without resistance, he felt his own burdens soften, melting like mist. In yielding, he discovered there is a higher kind of strength. Story 74. The lantern with no flame. A young monk carried an unlit lantern through a dark corridor each night. The other monks teased him. What good is a lantern without light? He simply smiled. One night the power flickered, and every lamp in the corridor went out. The monks panicked in the pitch black. The young monk handed his lantern to the abbot. It has no flame. The abbot said, it has space for one. The monk replied. They lit a small candle inside, and the corridor filled with warm glow. The abbot murmured, emptiness is not useless. Emptiness is readiness. End quote. This is the Grest. Story 75. The feather and the mountain. A feather drifted down onto a monk's robe as he sat in meditation. He opened his eyes to see it trembling, trying to settle. A gust of wind blew it away again. A novice laughed. Such a small thing, he said. The monk nodded. Yet the mountain cannot rise without the feather, and the feather cannot fall without the mountain. Node. In 7th. The novice frowned in confusion. The monk continued. All things shape each other. 2a. In 19, he watched the feather finally come to rest. Even the lightest touch, he whispered, belongs to the world. Olwo. Story 76. The tree that grew in circles. A strange tree in the monastery courtyard grew not upward, but in spirals, winding around itself like a gentle coil. Many thought it was flawed. One day, a master traced its curve with his hand. This tree does not rise straight, he said, because it learned to follow the wind. Ari. A student examined a ring of its trunk. It wasted time turning, he said. The master shook his head. It never wasted time. It adapted. In the evenings, birds nested in its soft curves, what others called imperfect. The world called shelter. Story 77. Clouds over the sutras. A monk practiced reading sutras outdoors, even on cloudy days. His friends asked why he didn't wait for sunlight to make the pages clear. The monk smiled. I read better beside clouds, he said. When the light is uncertain, my attention becomes steady. Too redded, a storm gathered overhead. But he continued reading calmly. His friends watched the ink glimmer faintly. Still visible, the monk whispered, if the sky must be perfect for you to learn, you will wait forever. You never. Story 78. The sparrow who asked for directions. A sparrow landed beside an old monk as he walked a forest path. The bird chirped loudly, tilting its head as if asking a question. The monk replied, I do not know where you must go, but I can walk with you a while. I thing, and comment. The sparrow hopped ahead, then returned, then hopped forward again, searching, unsure. When they reached a clearing, the sparrow suddenly took flight, finding its way at last. The monk bowed to the sky. Sometimes, he whispered, companionship is the only guidance needed. Well on fast, ease in fast. Story 79, the bowl that repaired itself. A novice dropped his tea bowl and cracked it cleanly down the middle. He wept, for it had belonged to his teacher. That night he left it on the windowsill, unable to throw it away. Morning sunlight warmed the clay, and dew gathered along the fracture. The crack sealed slightly, the clay swelling from the moisture, not fully healed, but no longer broken. The abbot saw it and said, "Time repairs what panic breaks further." The novice touched the warm bowl, feeling its imperfect wholeness. Story 80, the bridge that waited. A wooden bridge connected two cliffs, but was rarely used. Its planks grew old, its ropes loose. One day, a traveler approached, hesitant to cross. The wind creaked through the beams. "What if it collapses?" he whispered. A monk sweeping nearby replied, "It has waited years to carry someone. Let it fulfill its purpose." The traveler stepped carefully. The bridge swayed but held. On the far side, he felt lighter. The monk called out, "Some things grow strong by finally being trusted and caught." Story 81, the candle that chose the dark. A candle sat, unlit, on a small altar, beside a row of glowing lamps. Visitors always passed it by, thinking it had no purpose. One evening the power went out, and the hall fell into deep shadow. A young monk fumbled for matches, but found the unlit candle instead. He struck a flame and touched it to the wick. The candle flared softly, casting warm circles on the floor. Elders gathered around it, grateful for its simple light. The monk whispered, "You waited so long to shine." "He's really turned." The candle's flame danced gently, as if replying, "I was saving my strength for when it mattered." Guys. Story 82, the teacup that overheard a prayer. A cracked teacup sat on a shelf outside the meditation hall. One night, a traveler paused before it. Sighing from a long journey, he whispered a quiet wish for rest, for clarity, for something steady to hold on to. The breeze stirred his words into the cup's hollow center. Rain began to fall, filling the cup halfway. The traveler lifted it, drank the cool water, and felt renewed. A monk nearby said, "Even a broken vessel can answer a prayer simply by holding what comes." Story 83, the willow that waited for wind. A willow tree stood beside a silent lake, its branches still as stone. Villagers said it was lifeless, too rigid for its kind. But one morning, a soft breeze wandered through the valley. The willow shivered, then swayed gracefully, as if remembering a long-lost rhythm. Children gasped in delight. A passing monk smiled. "Some beings move," he said, "only when touched gently." And the willow bowed to the lake, ripples forming like applause. It had not been rigid at all, only patient. Story 84, the footprints behind the monk. A monk walked a sandy path every dawn, his steps light and silent. One morning he noticed a second line of footprints behind his own. He looked everywhere, no traveler, No animal, no wind trick. The next day, it happened again and again. Confused, he asked the abbot. The abbot knelt, pressed his palm into the sand, and lifted it slowly. Even when no one walks with you, he said, the earth remembers your journey. Say, the monk gazed at the empty path and felt companioned at last. Story 85. Pebbles in the river's pocket. A child found smooth pebbles glimmering beneath a shallow river. He asked a monk why the river kept them. The monk picked one up, held it to the sunlight, and said, the river polishes what it carries. The child placed the pebble back, watching it sink into the flowing water. Years later, as the child grew and faced hardships, he remembered those shining stones. He returned to the riverbank, and the monk, now older, said softly, what you've lived through has been smoothing you too. Likened. Story 86. The sparrow at the window. Each morning, a sparrow tapped at the meditation hall window. Novices tried to shoo it away, but it always returned. One day, a monk opened the window wide. The sparrow hopped inside, looked around, and flew out again. The novices asked why it kept coming. The monk smiled. It checks if we're awake. The next morning, when the tapping began, everyone sat a little straighter. The sparrow fluttered off, its job done for the day. Story 87. The bench that listened. A wooden bench sat beneath an ancient cedar tree. Visitors resting there often spoke aloud without meaning to. Words of worry, loneliness, tired hope. One evening, an elderly monk sat on the bench and listened. He ran his hand along its worn wood. It has heard more truth, he said, than many people dare speak. Infaction ran. He closed his eyes, letting his own thoughts settle. Sometimes, he realized, a place becomes wise simply by hearing enough hearts. Story 88. The kettle that waited to sing. In the kitchen of a rural temple, a small kettle sat unused. The larger kettles did all the work, singing loudly whenever the water boiled. The little kettle felt forgotten. One winter evening, a monk brewed tea for a late traveler and chose the small kettle. As it warmed, a faint, delicate whistle rose, soft, steady, unexpected. The monk smiled. You've had a song all along, he said. The little kettle glowed in the firelight, its voice finally heard. Story 89. Lantern light on quiet snow. Snow fell gently on the temple grounds, softening every sound. A monk carried a lantern through the drifting white. The snowflakes glimmered in the glow, twirling like tiny sparks. A novice hurried behind him, worried the light would go out in the cold, but the flame held steady, protected by the lantern's glass walls. The monk paused. Light survives, he whispered, when given even a small shelter. And, quote, the novice breathed deeply, feeling his own worries cool, like snow on warm skin. Story 90. The drum that echoed memory. A ceremonial drum hung in the hall, its surface worn by years of practice. Young monks struck it boldly, loving the thunderous sound. But one evening, an elder approached it gently. He tapped it with just 2 fingers. A soft, deep tone rose, round, lingering, ancient. The room seemed to hold its breath. You hear that? He asked. It remembers every hand that ever touched it. The young monks bowed, feeling connected to those who had come before. The night has grown quieter as you've traveled through these stories, each one like a small lantern along a winding path, guiding you toward a softer place inside. You've listened with such tenderness. You've allowed your breath to ease open, allowed your shoulders to settle, allowed the long day to loosen its grip. And now you're here, near the end of our time together, but at the beginning of your own peaceful rest. There's nothing you need to hold anymore. Not the questions that linger at the edges of your mind. Not the worries that tried to follow you into bed. Not the pressures that the world stacked upon your chest. They can wait outside the door tonight. They know the way back to morning. They don't need to lie beside you now. For this moment, you're simply breathing, like the quiet rise and fall of the ocean. The same rhythm that's been with you your whole life. Steady, patient, unfailing. Feel how the breath moves through you, like a river passing through a valley. Never struggling, never forcing its direction. It goes where it needs to go, and somehow everything adjusts around it. Just like you've learned tonight, there is a strange kindness in letting things be what they are. Not fighting the current, not gripping the wheel in the dark, just letting your heart rest, the way a leaf rests on water. You've carried so much today. Work, responsibilities, other people's moods, other people's expectations, all the invisible things no one sees you hold. But here, in this blue, sleepy, quiet, you don't have to carry any of it. Imagine placing it all into a small wooden boat on the edge of a calm lake. Your thoughts, your tension, your trying, set gently inside. And the lake, so still under the moonlight, slowly begins to move the boat away. Not far, not fast, just enough for you to feel space again. Space to breathe. Space to soften. Space to just be human in the simplest, kindest way. You might feel your hands loosen, your belly ease, your jaw slacken just a bit. You might even notice a warmth gathering somewhere in your chest, in your throat, in the soft place behind your eyes. Let that warmth spread like candlelight in a quiet room. Dim, golden, peaceful, a glow that asks nothing of you other than to trust it. If a thought wanders through, let it float past like a small cloud across a slow sky. No need to chase it, no need to stop it. You can let everything move without you having to move at all. Tonight, the world knows you're tired. The world knows you've tried your best. It understands. It holds no demands, no expectations. Just the soft invitation to rest. Let your breath become slower now, like a tide returning home. Let your body grow heavy, settling into the mattress, as if the earth itself is rising to cradle you. Everything is supporting you. The bed beneath you, the darkness around you, the silence that gathers at the edges of the room. All of it is here to help you release every last knot of effort. You've traveled with me through moonlit rivers, quiet forests, gentle flickering candles, open sky, and all along, these places have been reflections of something inside you, something spacious, unburdened, unafraid. You are allowed to rest in that space now, allowed to lean into it, the way a wave leans into shore. Let the stories fade behind you, like a trail disappearing into the dusk. Let the last bits of tension soften, the brow, the corners of the eyes the shoulders melting downward, like snow thawing in spring. Feel the night wrap around you, like a soft blanket, a night that holds no judgment, no noise, no rush, only room, only gentleness. Let your breath drift, a little slower, a little deeper, almost like a whisper from your own heart. If sleep feels close, welcome it, the way you'd welcome a dear friend returning home. No need to reach for it. No need to force it. It finds you on its own, always has. Just like the river finds the sea, just like the wind finds the trees, just like your breath finds its way back to your center again and again. You are safe now. You are allowed to let the whole day go. Allow your mind to dim, like a lantern slowly cooling. Allow your body to settle, like sand slipping to the bottom of a clear pool. Allow everything inside you to grow quiet. Then quieter still, you have reached the softest part of the night, the place where effort ends and peace begins. Let yourself drift without direction, without thought, without worry, just drifting, floating, weightless, held by the darkness, held by the silence, held by your own breath as it guides you into the deepest rest. May you sleep easily now. May you release everything that no longer needs to be carried. May your dreams be gentle and your waking be light. And now, let the night take you the rest of the way. Good night.